Let's take another online question. This is coming from Barry, who says, soon the federal debt ceiling will again be an issue. How do you plan to work to stop excessive mandated program spending that requires Congress to continually raise the debt ceiling?
Well, you know, a few years ago I introduced a piece of legislation called the Cut, Cap, and Balance Act. I continue to think that this kind of systemic structural spending reform is exactly what we need. It's what we ought to pass in tandem with anything that extends the debt ceiling. You see, otherwise you'll continue to have a Congress that just raises the debt ceiling reflexively and instinctively every single time the issue comes up without stopping to think about what the consequences of that spending might be. Over time, we've accumulated about $17 trillion in debt. We're adding to that at a rate of about $1 trillion a year. We spend about $235 billion a year in interest on our debt. That's a lot of money. But the scary part is that within just a few years' time, we could see our interest rates returning to the historical averages. And once that happens, the interest rate we pay on our federal debt could go back to normal. And once that happens, it'll be a very short period of time before we're spending $1 trillion a year in interest on our national debt. At that point, we'll be in a tough spot. Some would suggest, well, we'll just raise taxes. Well, that's about an $800 billion annual shortfall in addition to our almost $1 trillion annual debt. No tax increase that I've ever seen would give us that kind of money. Even if you raised the top marginal tax rate to 100%, you just confiscated all the wealth earned by all people in the top tax bracket, it still wouldn't close the loophole. We could borrow more money, but then our interest rate would go way up. Instead of paying $1 trillion a year, we'd soon be spending $2 or $3 trillion a year. We could print more money, but that hurts the poor and the middle class. Printing more money always ends badly, especially for those who live paycheck to paycheck, as most Americans do. The only other option would involve massive, painful, abrupt, and really draconian spending cuts, the likes of which we've never seen, the likes of which would make sequestration look like nothing. That would have an impact on the poor that would be really, really ugly. I want to avoid that. And for that very reason, I think we need to start making modest adjustments now, but adjustments that are structural and systemic to help control the rate of growth of government spending and to help make sure that our economy can outgrow our debt and get us safely on the pathway to balance.